Welcome to the Paranormal Stakeout radio TV show with Larry Lawson. As a former career law enforcement officer and law enforcement educator, Larry focuses on the use of tried and true law enforcement investigative techniques in conducting paranormal investigations. Despite his experience and training, Larry also keeps an open mind to discussions on topics that deal with evidence that are not quite as physical in nature. Paranormal Stakeout guests are professionals in the field of the paranormal and parapsychology, conducting the investigations and research needed to further the cause of paranormal study. Larry advocates an agenda of standardization of structure and training in the field of paranormal investigation and research for the purpose of one day being able to produce the evidence needed to convince a jury of the existence of the paranormal. Whether it is ghosts, UFOs, unsolved mysteries, hauntings or cryptids, no topic is beyond the investigative reach of Larry Lawson and the Paranormal Stakeout radio TV show team. Now, here is the host of the Paranormal Stakeout radio TV show, Larry Lawson.
Everyone, and welcome back to Paranormal Stakeout. I'm your host, Larry Lawson, coming to you from the Southern Command Post of the X-Zone Radio and Broadcast Network in beautiful Vero Beach, Florida. And folks, spring has finally sprung down here. We've got out of those frigidly cold nights of 40 and 50 degrees, and we're now back up into the 80s. I say that in jest. My heart goes out to all you folks up in the Northeast that got clobbered this winter. Tonight's an interesting show. We've got a guest coming on that is part of an institution that a lot of us in the paranormal community have heard about. I'm very excited to have him on, Mr. Daniel Klaes. Daniel has had a lifelong interest in the paranormal, and that really stems from the fact that he grew up in a haunted house. In fact, he was later able to purchase his childhood home and has kind of grown comfortable with his unseen guests. Daniel's the co-founder of the Greater Western New York Paranormal Society. He's challenged some really challenging paranormal cases up there. He's also a producer of Behind the Shadows, which is a documentary series shown on Ruco. He's also a radio host, a show called Phenomenon Encountered on the Crossroads Radio Network. But in 2015, Daniel realized his lifelong dream. He was able to purchase the infamous Hinsdale House up in Hinsdale, New York. It's a site of infestation and structural exorcism, and we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight. He has been restoring it, and he continues to restore it to this day, and he currently opens it up for paranormal teams all over the country and the world to come in and investigate and do research. That same house has been used on several TV shows, most interestingly on Paranormal Lockdown with Nick Groff and Katrina Whiteman a few years ago, and that gained a lot of attention to the house. In fact, my own team, the Florida Bureau of Paranormal Investigation, visited the Hinsdale House in 2021 and had a really good time. So with that, I'd like to invite and welcome Daniel Klaes to the Paranormal Stakeout radio and TV show. Daniel, welcome to the show.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing great. You know, it's really easy to focus on the house. Everybody's heard of the Hinsdale House. But I'd like to know a little bit about Daniel Klaes, and I'd like to know about your journey into the paranormal. What started you on this journey? Love to know about this house you grew up in. So I'll turn it over to you for a second.
Yeah, I mean,
there.
For me, it was just growing up in a house with weird things happening that we couldn't explain. My dad always sloughed things off when stuff would happen. If you'd hear a creaking on like somebody was walking, but they weren't there. Thought I would see something out of the corner of my eye. But most specifically, I was the older brother of three. I have three sisters, and things would happen that I get blamed for. So like, for instance, my sister was a neat freak, and she would meticulously put her animals on her bed every morning. That we'd come home from school, and the animals would be moved on the floor or around the house, and I would get blamed for it. And I knew I didn't do it. And I said, it has to be one of my other sisters screwing with me or something. Somebody's got to be putting the blame on me for something, And then one notable thing that happened was we went to church every Sunday. And when we came home after going out for breakfast, we knew nobody was there. We were all together, and we have like vaulted ceilings in our living room, and there were crayon drawings on the ceiling, and there was crayon sitting in the middle of our living room floor. Of course, somebody's pulling a prank on us. It was all stuff to just try to protect us as kids. But later in life, after I purchased the house from my parents, my kids started having some of the same things happen, and then it all came back to me, all the things that I was dealing with when I was a child. And my son said he saw a little boy in his room. My wife said she saw a little girl standing on the stairs, and it just got me interested in maybe now that I had the deed, I could look up the history, and I was looking up like going back to the libraries that had microfiche and going through all the old newspapers, and found out that in the house that I bought for my parents and the original owners, that there was a little boy and a little girl that died of cystic fibrosis. And I said, well, maybe there are child ghosts here, because it was nothing ever malicious. It was always just like fun things. And I remember my parents were camping one time, and I was staying over at my next door neighbor's house. My best friend lived there, and we were going over to get my G.I. Joe guys. When we opened the door, it sounded like a little boy and a little girl singing Ring Around the Rosie upstairs. And he ran up the stairs. I wanted to get the hell out of there. I was scared. And then when we went upstairs, it was like the teddy bear just tumbled over in the middle of my sister's floor. And I never forget some of these things that happened. And just started researching the house some more. My friend told me that I needed to go to Lilydale, which is a psychic community up here in Western New York. And I didn't know that I so much believed in psychics that much at that point in my life. I've met some good ones now, but I said, well, get me a good psychic then. I'll go with you. And I went up there, and I remember the psychic's name was Ellen Bourne, and she was the president of the Lilydale Assembly. And before I even paid her, before I gave her, before she, gave me any type of reading, she came out and she goes, "You have two, a little boy and a little girl, spirits living in your house." I'm like, I can get out of here. I don't have to pay, right? Like, she just kind of confirmed what I was kind of feeling, And then she said they're attached to something in the house that's theirs, and something that they're very fond of. And she kind of went over what I should do to like have them go to the light. And that's kind of what my mission was, to try and find the item that was theirs in my house. And we ended up finding it probably a couple of years after that. We went there was an attic, one of those little squares in the ceiling on the second floor, and never been up there, so couldn't figure it out. So we went up there, and I tiptoed around and had the flashlight on, and over in the corner there were these boards, and I turned them around, and they ended up being paintings of a little boy and a little girl playing with their dog. And I just like, whoa, oh, here we go, and I found the items. And, I had pushed them to the light and told them that they're free to go. And it seemed like just like a weight lifted off my shoulders in that house. And kind of started my speculation into the paranormal at that point, because I felt like it was my a big Scooby-Doo episode that I got to solve, after all those years, my whole lifetime of experiencing this stuff. And actually kind of solving the mystery, and it's kind of what we do, and it's kind of what I continue to do ever since, So,
now, did you ever see the kids yourself? I know you mentioned your wife had your son had seen them, but had you ever seen anything at that point?
I just heard them. I heard them, but I never saw them, physically. Mm-hmm. My sister later in life, we did a show on Discovery Channel called My Paranormal Nightmare. And it was based on the story of that house, and my sister was on it with me, and she said stuff she never told me before on the show when they were interviewing. I'm like, what, and then my mom came out and said she saw a shadow in the basement, and my whole family's coming out after the fact, telling me all this stuff, and I was like, it just made me feel vindicated in a way,
Sure. Now, how old were you when you actually began to investigate? You had the incident up in the attic, which is certainly a game changer. But how old were you when you actually began to start investigating? What was your motive for investigating? What was it you were trying to accomplish?
Well, I didn't initially start investigating. I just started absorbing and started trying to learn. So I would start going to like ghost hunts that were catered by a professional, and going to Gettysburg, and just kind of learning how they did things. And until I later was probably around 26 years old before I started doing it myself, where I felt comfortable doing it myself. And there were some things I still didn't feel comfortable doing. But you make friends along the line that can help you out, or you can cater or call if you have questions. And And it's always been like that, if there's something that you're confused about or something, or maybe there's somebody else that's dealt with that more than I have, and you can always call and get advice and continue down the path. But probably, yeah, around 26 years old when we started.
So without revealing your age, I wouldn't do that to you, but how long have you been actively investigating
I'm
at
going to
this
be
point?
50 in July.
50.
So 24 years.
You are not going to be 50.
Yes, I am.
Dang.
I don't care. We all grow old, right?
Yeah, but you don't look like you're past 30, my friend. So
let's keep it up. Like oil of
yeah,
Olay,
keep that up. Yeah, I guess so. Start keeping your card with you or your ID when you go into the bars and stuff at this point. That's great. Once again, what is your purpose for investigating? Where you're at right now? What is it you're trying to accomplish by what you do?
I don't think it's a matter of me wanting to figure out if there's ghosts anymore, because I've done that many times over. For me, it's about understanding it more. I think we kind of all evolve from the whole excitement part of, oh, we got an EVP or we got this or that. Now it's more of coming up with different approaches or actually trying to understand what's on the other side. To evolve our equipment, try to evolve our equipment that we're using, because it's all still very primitive and it really hasn't evolved. Some of that old primitive stuff works great, but if you're trying to get results, but also to teach, we do tours with kids, teenagers and stuff like that are interested, and getting them going down the right path at a younger age, as opposed to like breaking into places and destroying stuff. Actually, that have an interest in it and getting them going down the right path is kind of where I stand with things right now.
How about the history angle of it all? Do you find that helpful?
Oh,
Do you find that teaching history is easier when you've got this twist to it?
Yeah, no, I think that's super important, and it's definitely part of it for me. I love the history. I love finding out the truth.
Mhm.
I like to disseminate whether it's truth or folklore when I'm talking to people, so that they
Mhm.
understand, because a lot of the times people just tell stories, and then that just it keeps going down. You know how you tell those, whisper in somebody's ear, and by the time it gets down at the end, it's a completely different story. So I like
Mhm.
to try to make sure that we're telling what we know are facts and what we know are folklore, when we're telling stories or looking up information on things that we can't prove. Um, it's based on a folklore story, so we
Yeah.
don't know for sure.
Have you ever had an opportunity to get a name or, a name during an investigation, whether it's on a piece of equipment or it comes through somebody psychically, but get a name and you're able to link it to the venue you're at historically? Have you had any
Yeah,
luck with that?
well, yeah, and especially at Hinsdale, because um, the benefit of owning a location is I don't get to just go there for a day or two, and I collect the data from the teams that come in, and we're able to collaborate, some of the stuff that they get, some of the stuff that we've gotten. I've had names and EVPs and spirit box sessions that I've done there that have nothing to do with the house, but had to do with somebody that I knew. Like it was a friend of mine that I knew that came through, that was with me, and they were
Well,
coming through on this.
we're getting ready. Hate to interrupt you, but we're getting ready to take our first break. And I'd actually like to talk a little bit more about that. People and things coming through that have no connection to the house, but somebody else, because that's an interesting angle. So, folks, stay with us. I got Daniel Klaes with us from the Hinsdale House. We'll be back right after these messages. Hey, folks, welcome back. I'm with Daniel Klaes tonight, owner of the Hinsdale House, and I know that's what everybody wants to hear about. But we're going to get to that shortly. But I'm still digging into who is Daniel Klaes and all the things that he's really done. And one of the things you brought up just before the break was really interesting to me. In my experience, many people say, well, this house is haunted because the person that died here is still here. But so often we have found, and it sounds like you have also, that people just stop in from the other side. What kind of experiences have you had have you had like that at the Hinsdale?
So one of the most profound experiences I had is there was a lady. Her name was Bernice Golden, that I helped do a podcast with online. She was a psychic medium, and she did an online show for years. It was an honor for me to work with her. She worked with Barbara Bush at the White House and George Bush, and was an author. And just be able for me to be able to help her out at the end of her life. We became really good friends, and she always said she wanted to go to the Hinsdale House, but she was never able to because she was wheelchair bound. Um, she had passed away, and probably about a year or so later, I was doing a spirit box session with a group in the living room with a small group of people, and we were asking questions about the history of the house. And I started hearing this foul mouth that sounded like a lady coming through, and this is how she was off the camera. She used to swear, like she used to, joke around and stuff like that. And I said, wow, and started thinking about it. I said, it sounds a lot like Bernice, and then she said a couple of key things, something about, she started talking about how I always used to kid her about the pipes, she always told me, don't ask her questions about um, a lady that's pregnant, what type of, if she's going to have a boy or a girl, and I always like to do that and watch her facial expressions on the camera as I asked her those questions just to tease her. And then, and her husband was listening, and he said, my God, that's Bernice. I'm like, holy cow, it is Bernice. And she goes, yeah, baby. It was like she was there, and then she got to come visit the house, and she wanted to let me know that she actually made it there. And I was checking it out, and I feel like she's kind of like a spirit angel for me at this point, because she comes through a lot like she's a guide, kind of, in a way, when I'm doing things.
Have you had or any of your guests had other experiences of entities, we'll call them spirits, that don't belong there showing up?
Oh yeah, I have a guide that was doing a tour out by the pond, and was adamant, with the EVPs and things that they collected out there, that it was her grandmother that was
Mhm.
out there. And we've had and actually, it's just got to the point where when I do a group setting, like if I have a group of 10 people and we're doing a spirit box session, we're doing an EVP, I always, before we even start, I said, this could be a situation where you have somebody that's attached to you that's in this circle with us, and they could be coming through trying to communicate with you. It's like we're doing a gallery reading here, in a way, opening
Mhm.
up these doors for them to communicate with us. And no, it's happened. I've been all over the country at different haunted locations, and it's happened with groups, not just at the Hinsdale House, but other places that I've done tours with too, with
Mhm.
people that are in the crowd. So it's a lot of the times too. I mean, a lot of people don't have like a spirit box, or they don't have they're not doing EVP sessions, and if they're just using like like K2 meters or something like that to investigate, I mean, they could just be investigating a place that they think is haunted, and communicating with their family. I mean, that's
Mhm.
with them. So I mean, it's definitely, I think it happens more often than not.
You've mentioned equipment several times here, and you also made a comment a few minutes ago that I agree with, that our equipment is still, I don't know if archaic's the right word, but we really have not progressed in the field of equipment to monitor and detect the other side. First of all, what piece of equipment do you prefer to use yourself and your team? Do you have a?
I just like to use sound recorders, and I also have a geo port that I like to
Mhm.
use,
Mhm.
that scans for white noise, and been pretty successful. But it's all theory based. It's not based on scientific knowledge. And that's basically a lot of the equipment that we use. It's all based on theory, because we don't know for sure if that's what works or not. So I can say that beyond a doubt, though, that some of the responses and things that I've gotten are pretty cool, as far as like when we're
Mhm.
investigating, and how you can put the responses together with the history and kind of piece things together. It's pretty compelling sometimes.
You've also mentioned, and for some of my listeners that may not know what a spirit box is, can you kind of enlighten them how you use it and what it does for you?
Yeah, so there's different types and different styles. They're getting pretty fancy nowadays, because people are making them out of different things, and that have different energy to them. But for the most part, it's just a sweeping of AM or FM radio. Like on the old cars, how you would like turn the knob, and there would be that static in between. You're trying to get that static, and the theory is that the energies can communicate through that white noise, kind of like on the
Mhm.
TV, or on the white noise that's in the when you're scanning the radio stations. And a lot of developers have tried to use like Faraday cages, um, to stop the actual radio stations from coming in, so you're just getting straight white noise, and thinking maybe that could better things, So there's a lot of different theories behind it, but that's basically the gist of it.
And that's the key to all this, isn't it? It's all theory. None
Yeah,
of us really, really know what it is on the other side. Would you agree?
100%. Yeah.
Do you have a theory yourself as to what a ghost is?
I mean, I think that I think a ghost is a human being that's passed away. I mean, I just feel like I look at it scientifically, like the body being the battery, and when the battery dies, that energy is still there somewhere. And I
Mhm.
think that energy is, if you do use the right things, you can probably try to communicate with it.
And not to put you on the spot because we both agree nobody knows for sure why this phenomenon exists, but when we die, do we stay here? Do we go somewhere and come back? What is your opinion on that? Is there
I
a
mean,
collective?
I have my personal beliefs that I trust in. But there's a lot. That's the other thing with this investigating. You have to be compassionate to what people believe too, because a lot of people have different belief systems. And what I might think, again, based off my belief system, and what somebody else who is agnostic or somebody that's a witch or something, they have different theories of what happens to us when we die, and they'll go to the end of the barrel, arguing it. But to me, it's not worth arguing, because at the end of the day, we all know that something's there. Something is that's unexplainable, that we don't know for sure, and that's why we're all doing this. That's why we all do this. And yeah, I mean, it's in the book that I read, it says, "Happy are those who believe that don't see," and that's kind of my belief system.
Well, yeah, and there's like you said, there's a lot of reasons for people to do this, but trying to find out the answers, what most of us are trying to do, what is it on the other side? Um, do you think there's a heaven, for example, in your opinion? And all this is your opinion. Is there a heaven? Do they just stay here?
I mean, there's been times where I've felt like I've communicated with the same energy,
Mhm.
numerous times, not the same day. So are they just hanging out there? I hope not. I mean, I hope they're doing other things. I hope that when we die, it's better for everybody. And who knows? But
Amen to that. Yeah.
I hate to think that I get buried in a grave and I just hang out by the grave all day. Like, I hope there's other things we can do.
The reason I'm asking this, and I actually have a motive myself for asking this, one investigation we did, for example, um, we actually got what alleged to be the spirit of some folks that lived in this house told us through our equipment, which once again we all know that's not perfect either, but that they go between here and heaven all the time. And I found that very intriguing, and I'm interested to hear if other folks have in, received evidence that said that the spirits or whoever they're talking to said they travel back and forth. I've had an experience similar to what you experienced, where I was uh, doing something and my grandmother showed up in a place she never should have shown up. Do I know for sure it was grandma? No, but all the facts were right, and she shouldn't have been there, but she was. So it just kind of makes you wonder what it is. Where is it that we go? Do we come back from? And that's what I try to talk to all my guests about, what their thoughts and opinions
Does
are.
does heaven have to be up there? Can heaven be a foot off the ground in a different plane? I mean, do we
Well,
know for
that's a,
sure?
no. In fact, if you look at the theory of the different dimensions that are supposedly sit right next to each other, is heaven just one of those dimensions? And I don't
Right.
mean to sound sacrilegious, but the
No, no. I mean,
most of most of what we read is what man has written. We don't really know what those dimensions are and how they affect us. And is that where we go to the next dimension?
have you ever done a session using paranormal equipment, and you're trying to have a conversation, but the conversation that's being heard through the other end sounds like uh, there's a couple ghosts or a couple of people that are having a conversation that you're not part of. You know what
We
I mean?
just
Like,
had, yeah, yeah, we just had that happen last weekend. We were at a spot that we got invited into. It,
we were
got
tapping
us
into a phone line or something, like listening to a,
exactly, and it was on our portal, which is a spirit box that's amped up with the white noise, as you were describing earlier. And we're sitting there, and it's like two people are talking and not even paying attention to us.
yeah,
And we had another incident that we were down in Miami at a train museum, had the same thing happen. It's like things are going on in this medical car, and we're just like bystanders, but you could hear it. So yes, to answer your question, I've had that happen, and it makes you wonder about that dimension issue. Are we sometimes just slipping in and out of where they're at right now?
yeah.
So,
I mean, it
and
makes sense, but to me, it makes more sense than, that we float up to the sky in the abyss somewhere, but who knows?
and there's no doubt we go somewhere, but where I don't know. Now, would you also agree? Sometimes you think you're talking to Aunt Gertrude, your Aunt Gertrude, but do we really know it's Aunt Gertrude? Have
Right.
you ever had experiences where you've been lied to?
Yes. Yeah. We've had experiences like that numerous times at the house. And there's like, I don't know if it's like, I mean, I know my personality, and if I was dead, I think I would have fun pranking people. Like, it would just be fun to, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, but we've had numerous times in all the years I've been doing this where you think you're having a conversation with something or someone, and then it just turns like completely different in a different way, and
Uh,
then it doesn't make any sense anymore.
I know. We were in one house, not to tell stories on my side, but we were in a house. This is about 8 months ago. A house that was built around the turn of the last century, which for Florida is old. Not so much you guys, you've got
Right.
much older, but in Florida, 110 years is old here. And we're sitting there, and on the spirit box once again, through the portal, we're hearing gunfire. I was a cop for 40 years. I know what gunfire is. And suddenly, over the spirit box, we start hearing gunfire. 3, 4 minutes of it, nonstop, and then it ends.
Yeah. Had that
What the
happen
heck
in
have you?
Gettysburg. Yeah, it sounded like like rifles going off. We've heard it sounded like a cannon going off when we were in Gettysburg, when we
Hmm.
were investigating. It's really
Yeah.
cool.
And at Gettysburg, you'd expect it, but where we were at, we sure didn't expect it. But listen, this is going fast. We're about ready to take our next break. So, folks, having a great conversation with Daniel Klaes here. A lot more to talk about coming up. We're going to be talking about the famous Hinsdale House. So don't leave. Stay tuned. Back after these messages. And welcome back, everybody, to Paranormal Stakeout. My guest tonight is Daniel Klaes, the owner of Hinsdale House up in northwestern New York. But going to get into that in a second. Daniel, your team. How many people are on your team that you go out and investigate with?
Uh, well, right now we have a base of five original investigators of five people. We've had three other members that are pretty tight. That will still come every now and then if we need them. We've added people on throughout the years, but we still have our core that have been together
Mhm.
for like 13, 14 years. So.
Does your family get involved in your gig at all, or not?
So my oldest son is into it. My daughter, my daughter, both of my daughters are actually cool with it. But yeah, no, they definitely are cool with doing some investigating or checking it out. But they're not into it as much as I am. My dad's
Mhm.
really into it. He's gone to some conventions with me, which is kind of cool.
Okay.
Hung out and helped me with my table and stuff. So
And I've had my two sons were involved with me until they grew up and left the house and are now living their own lives. But my kids helped me out quite a bit with it, so it's kind of it's fulfilling in a sense. But if you were to try to explain to somebody, because different people watch my show, and some of them believe, some of them don't. But if you had an opportunity to try to explain somebody what this phenomenon is and why they should keep an open mind, what would your answer be?
I think a lot of the times it happens it's just when you least expect it. I think sometimes people want it so bad. and try so hard that they don't look at things, their surroundings, or what a sign might be of something
Mhm.
happening. So I just that's why it's super important. Like, I know this one gal that came up here from South Carolina that never had a paranormal experience, and she came up here and she was trained to do tours and learning history and stuff like that. And I said, the more time you spend here, the more comfortable you'll be. Eventually, something may happen. It's when you least expect it.
Mhm.
And she was at the house and she said, well, can I spend the night there? And she's pretty experienced. She's been doing it for a couple of years, and she wanted to do the one night, and she's freaking out. She's texting me and she's freaking out. I think I heard something. And I said, well, turn your recorder on. Start recording it, start recording what you're hearing, and then she heard audible voices coming, no devices, nothing. She just was sitting there just trying to have an experience, personal experience. And then she was able to turn her recorder on and get the responses that she was hearing with her own ears audibly on the recorder, which is so cool. And she was able to have her first experience of something unexplained happening that she doesn't, sounded like a little girl speaking to her. So it was she now she has that's her proud piece of evidence that she shows on tours, lets people listen to on tours when they come to the house, that she captured on her own.
What is your opinion on why some people experience things, some people never experience things, and other people maybe experience one or two things? Do you have a theory or a thought on that?
Well, I just think, just like what we do, anything that we do, the more you do it, the more experience you'll be with it. Maybe the better evidence that you'll capture down the road. I think that if people just do it as a novelty thing, maybe they'll get lucky, maybe they won't. And if somebody is just a skeptic, but then again, I know skeptics that do this full time and
Yeah,
are trying to have something happen to them, and they've never had anything that they can explain as paranormal. So I mean, I really don't know. Like, I feel like I try to be vulnerable and let my guard down when I'm doing things, and be compassionate and understanding of the surroundings. And it doesn't happen all the time. There's times where you just go to places and nothing happens. And you have to be honest with yourself. It's not like television shows. It's I've been to
thank
the
you.
Hinsdale
Yes.
House. I owned it for years, and I make television shows. So I mean, I know what goes into that. And sometimes we'll be at a place for 48 hours, 72 hours, 96 hours, days and days and days, and do all this filming. And we push that into a 47-minute show, and maybe if we get something cool happen, we could put that in. But people think it's just like instant, like you're going to be getting instant stuff, and it's not like it is on
Well,
the shows.
that's what TV does to us. I mean, the one thing I can't stand, shouldn't put it this way, but cop shows. How many times over the years on the job, well, wait a minute, how come you can't pull this fingerprint up and tell me who it is? Well, that's not how it works. Well, I saw it on this show or that show, so I get it. In fact, one thing that I like to talk about with folks is paranormal investigation is like a stakeout in police work. You watch it on TV or in the movies, it's exciting, bang, bang, shoot 'em up, adrenaline pumping. And the reality is, a police stakeout is one of the most boring things you can do. You'll sit for hours upon hours, days, and get nothing, and then get 30 seconds of adrenaline pounding excitement.
Unless
And
you accidentally
paranormal,
fall asleep.
well, okay, and that's happened in paranormal investigations too. But
It sure has.
it's the same thing. It doesn't happen all the time. Another thing I like to say is it's like fishing. Sometimes they're biting, sometimes they're not. I'll be honest with you. Loved the Hinsdale House, and my team was there. We thought the young lady we dealt with was terrific. We had a great time, but we had a quiet night, and
It
it
happens.
happens. It just happens. So I totally get what you're saying there. It just doesn't always
It's
occur.
it reminds me of a story. So a friend of mine, she has a female team called the Warriors of the Paranormal, right? And she's comes to the house quite often, and she's up there, and she's communicating, through me via text message throughout the night. Just it's quiet, nothing's happening, like, and she understands that, like you could potentially be there the whole night and not get anything. And the night went, and the next day came, and they left and packed up. And I talked to her the next day, and she goes, "Yeah, it was dead. We didn't get any evidence. It was just kind of like what you're saying. It was a comfortable night. We had a fire outside and enjoyed ourselves." And then a couple days later, she's going through. She had cameras running the whole time, and She had a static camera set up where she was sleeping on the couch in the living room, and she's freaking out. She's like, oh my God, we got the best evidence. I go, wait, I thought it was dead. She goes, well, it didn't happen when I was awake, when I was awake, you know? So she's fell asleep on the couch, curled up on the couch like this. And then and on the camera, it looks like an arm goes underneath her blanket, and the blanket levitates up and falls down. And then a couple minutes later into the video, fast forward, that little area, the couch is right here, and then she's got that V shape in between her knees and her chest. It looks like a head pops out of the blanket in that little area, and it pops back down. And then a couple minutes later in the video, you see this black shadow in front of the camera, and the battery drains, it's dead. And that was the end of her video. And I have those up on my YouTube if anybody wants to see them. But it's like, just wow, you know, like to think she captured some pretty cool stuff, but you weren't even awake to witness it, you know, until after the fact.
Do you think places can be, for lack of a better term, fished out? For example, let's take one of the big name spots, one of the asylums that a lot of folks go to. Do you think it could ever reach a point where nothing happens anymore? And if you do, why would you think that would happen?
I don't know. I mean, I think if you go in, I think if they are human spirits, can they get bored with getting asked the same questions over and over and over again?
Frustrated.
Yeah, so I think you really need to think outside of the box, or come up with ways to try to get answers. Because I'll tell you what, from the time that I bought the Hinsdale house, from what I thought was the stories and what I thought was true and what was, it's my story. The house, the stories that I tell at the house now compared to when I first bought it are completely different, because I found things that I had were not correct. I found the timeline that I had was not right. And it takes, you know, working together and not having an ego in the system, and working together with people to understand, you know, like, hey, you know, I had a news reporter from Pittsburgh say, you know, your timeline screwed up and telling people the wrong stuff. Here's what I found out. And instead of saying, you know, no, you're wrong, this is the story, I'm sticking with it, and trying to tell people false things, you know, I suck it up and say, no, you did an awesome job with your research, and give you some props. And now maybe the door opens up, and maybe the spirits are energized because, okay, maybe we're going down the right path. And I feel like that's kind of how it's been with the house. It's like a big puzzle, you know, and like every time you find the piece to the puzzle, more doors open, and it's like the puzzle just keeps getting bigger. Like we found burial shafts on the property, but we wouldn't have, you know, like, why would
burial shafts? What do you mean?
So the theory, there's a story, a folklore story about two brothers that owned the house that were murdering and killing people on the Stagecoach Trail, and then burying their bodies in the out on the hill or on the property, you know, in the spring. And so we wanted to try to debunk there being bodies on the property, you know. So we were filming that for Paranormal Lockdown, and the first time that we went there, and then I remember Nick coming out, and I was sitting in the kitchen, and he said, you got to come out here, you know. And at this time, you were there in 2021, 2020, so 4 years ago, 5 years ago. Were you able to walk around the whole pond?
Oh yeah.
So yeah, so we weren't. We had to. When they dug that pond, they took all the dirt from the pond and put it on the right side, and it wasn't accessible, and it was very swampy over there. And I had to like have that all graded and put back to the way it was before the pond was there, you know. So we've uncovered so many things over there. But on the right corner in the back of the pond area, we had hits for burial shafts there from a GP, ground penetrating radar. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, all the worst things, you know, these stories about people getting killed, and it ends up, it's an ancient grave, you know. So there's bodies that are put in there in boxes. He said they're in boxes, and it looks to be like 2 adults and 2 children. So it's probably just a family burial plot on the back of the property. Now, all these folklore stories that I can't in my head, like a woman in white dancing around the pond that people are talking about from a psychic, the lady getting hung from a psychic saying the story. This guy that lived there before this Dandy family talked about spirits levitating over the pond when he was a kid. A little boy, a little child, and 2 adults with no legs. And I'm thinking maybe that's what people are seeing, but they're trying to let us know that they're not there. The one thing about that was we found a grave marker in the ground as well, and we had the pond forensic dove, and we found the other half of that marker in the pond. So somebody cracked that off
Interesting.
and dumped it in the pond, and that pond was built in the late 70s. So it was happened recently, and that's
Ah,
when all shit hit the fan.
interesting. Yeah, with the Dandy family. Yeah, that
Yeah.
kind of makes sense, doesn't it? So I've held off long enough. People are wanting to hear more about the Hinsdale House. We got about 2 minutes before our next break, and then we got the whole last section. Tell us about the Hinsdale House. How did you end up with it?
So I went there with my paranormal team. My co-founder of the group booked the location for us. Didn't really tell us too much about it, and I was normally the recon guy trying to get all the work on it. He goes, "I got this one taken care of." He says, "You just show up to the location, and I'll brief you when we get there." And we drove up in December. It was probably 2013, and I just remember that weariness of going there, not having any information, not knowing anything, driving up that hill in the middle of the winter, and then finally getting to the location. My phone's not working, and I'm thinking this is like that show. It's just like a horrible nightmare about to happen here. Like we're in the middle of nowhere. There's no neighbors. My phone's not
You hear
working,
banjos
and where are
playing?
we going into? Yep.
Mhm.
You could just hear the wind whistling in the background, and then went into the house and sat down in the living room, and he had us watch an episode of A Haunting that was based on that house. And then from that point on, I was freaked out that we were even there, just knowing the history.
Wow. So, and that was what year?
2013 when I first went.
Okay, but and you bought it not too far long after that then. So that's very, very
No,
interesting.
a couple years.
Um, okay. Well, once we get back, as I said, we're about ready to take our next break. When we get back, I need to start I'm going to give you the floor. Want to hear more about the Hinsdale House, what makes it haunted, what sort of stuff you've had. Anxious to talk to you more about that. So folks, stay with us after these breaks. Daniel Klaes, owner of the Hinsdale House in New York. Stay tuned. Welcome back, everyone, with Daniel Klaes, my guest tonight. And I want to take a second to encourage you folks to take a look at a little bit more about my team and what we do. You can find more about me and my team, the Florida Bureau of Paranormal Investigation and Indian River Hauntings, at indianriverhauntings.com. That's my website. Or you can check us out on Facebook at Indian River Hauntings LLC. Also, our YouTube channel at Indian River Hauntings 2341. And you can see some of our investigations and some of the things that we've done over the years that you might find interesting. I'd also like to encourage you to enjoy some of the great programming on the X Zone Radio and TV broadcast network. Just go to xzbn.net and you can find all the terrific shows that are on there. And I really think you'd enjoy it. So take a look at it. Now, Daniel, before we get into the meat of this and talking about Hinsdale, how can folks get a hold of you, and what's your website and your contact
Yeah,
info?
the easiest way is my name there, danielclass.com. All the links to the Hinsdale House and events that I'll be at, my store, merch and stuff like that is all up on that website, danielclass.com.
Okay. So tell us about the house. You bought it in 2014,
15.
2015. You bought the house. What happens then?
It's important to mention too, like this house was about to be torn down. I had started going there in 2013, and I had that night that I was talking about right before the break. To find out that there was a failed structural exorcism at the location really was mind-boggling to me to not tell me ahead of time going into a place, and grounded myself, came back in and did the investigation that night. And for me, it was unlike any other location because all the equipment that we had brought was being manipulated. Something was trying to communicate with us. So I didn't become infatuated like the Gollum in the Ring, but I became to liking the house, because to me there was something there that wanted to speak and something that wanted to have their to communicate with us. And I ended up going back there quite a few times to the point where the owners defaulted on their mortgage. They were from Calgary, and the house was in such disarray that the bank decided they were going to just tear it down and try to sell the land. And it had like black mold in the kitchen, and all the pipes and all the heating system was ripped out of it, and it was just in really, really bad shape. And the last time I was there, I was in the kitchen, and I had started doing more research because all up to that point, all we were talking about is the failed exorcism, and I found out that there was this older couple that lived there. in the 80s, the Misnick family. And when we were doing filming for our YouTube show, the last night we're kind of saying goodbye to the location, and they were talking about the exorcism, and then I just said, Flo, are you here? And I had like a personal experience. Like, I'm not even one to say that I get touched when I go to locations, but I felt something on my arm, and I had like goosebumps up my arm. My hair was standing straight up on my arm, and I said, are you holding my hand? And I just continued to feel this energy. I said, can you hold my hand as we go up the stairs? And I felt the K2 meter in my hand just go off all the way to 500 milligauss in my hand. And at this point, all the electricity is ripped out of the house. There's no reason for this thing to be going off all the way up the stairs into the master bedroom. My photographer caught what looked like ghostly legs on the stairs that night. And I just felt like, I don't know, all the synchronicities of me being able to do some research and find that out, and then having that personal experience there made me want to see if there was a way to save the location. And I got a hold of the bank, and they didn't want to sell me the house as was. They wanted me to have it, they wanted to tear it down and just give me the land. And I had to basically go to the bank and convince them to sell it to me like that. Like, and I told them I would fix it up, and they agreed, as long as it was a cash sale as is. And I had to like come up with cash to put a deposit down. They were holding the mortgage, and because no insurance company would have insured this place. It needed a new roof. It was leaking, black mold, honeybee infestation. I mean, you name it, it needed to have done. The porch was sinking in, the siding was all busted up. I mean, it was really bad. So there's like before and after pictures on my website. But yeah, so that was the start of my journey. I remember going and signing for this place and then driving up to it, and that day, and I looked at myself and I said, what the heck did I just do? Because I drained my bank account to get the place, and I was taking a chance, like I didn't know how I was going to fix the roof. I didn't know. I kind of went in not thinking very smart like I do normally. It was just kind of like a heart impulse type of purchase. And the paranormal community came together, and they helped me stabilize that location before the end of that next winter. Patch job, but it held.
How
we are today.
How did the paranormal community do that?
So I just put a call out, like all the years I've been doing this and meeting people at events and stuff like that. I just put a call out, and I just said, day of caring at the Hinsdale House, we need paint, we need patch material, we need roofing material, we need, you name it, we need it to patch this place up and come on up. And we had 65 people show up with ladders and paints, and
wow.
We were able to get the roof done for about $5,000 because of donations, which was amazing. It wasn't done completely the right way, but it was enough to patch it up so the hot roof wasn't leaking anymore. And then eventually down the road, as we had more tours and were able to save money up, we were able to do things the right way, as opposed to just patch jobs. And it just took time, and you had to have patience and kind of just keep reinvesting the money back into the location as we went.
Okay. I got to go back just one quick second here, because I want to hear more about this. But you mentioned a structural exorcism.
Yeah.
What is that? What is that?
I think it's important to disseminate between an exorcism of a human being and a structural exorcism, which is more of like a blessing of the house.
Cleansing?
Cleansing, like a cleansing. Yeah, like the priest came in and they called it the structural exorcism back then. And it was basically him trying to cleanse the house of any spirits that were there.
Okay. And obviously it didn't work.
No. Whatever was there didn't leave.
So, and I just wanted to get that cleared up too, because that I just wanted to make sure that terminology, I wasn't sure quite what that meant. So now you've got the house, you've had folks in the community come in and help. You're obviously able to open it. How have you managed to? Why have you managed to keep it open? Why have you done it, and how have you done it to keep the lights on?
Yeah, I think like the first big thing that happened was Nick and Katrina coming and filming their show there. Right when I bought it, they were able to come there and get the location put out on national television, which definitely helps. And you have to really get into marketing mode, as far as like, I knew the place couldn't be sustained just by me marketing to teams in the Western New York area. I needed to expand, and if we're going to be on an international television show, I need to get out and reach people in different cities that are interested in what we're doing, and different teams and different events. And I probably spent a good 5 or 6 years just going to events, even if they were dead. You ever been to an event where there's like just a bunch of people sitting around at tables and nobody shows up? I've been to events like that, but you know what? If there's 20 tables there and there's 14 groups of people that are investigators, that's fine with me, because I get to talk about the Hinsdale House to them, and tell them that they could come up to the house and investigate it. And it's just a support and having people come there. And the other thing too is like making it fair. Like there's some places that just charge so much money now. Me being on a team, I understand it's it's a passion thing. It's not a I'm rich, let's go spend thousands of dollars to run out a location for a night. So I wanted to make it affordable, where we could make a little money, save some money, and be able to reinvest it back in a location, and also give people the experience that they want, unlike any other place, because you're going to have full reign at the location. You're going to have the keys. You're going to be able to come in and investigate and do your
That's
thing,
true.
and have an ample amount of time to do it, if not more. Then so just trying to be fair, and understanding with people, and marketing that place, and getting out and talking about it. I wrote a book about it, that did really well, and I'm in the midst of writing an updated book. And it's just getting out there and marketing it, and just being fair with people, I think, because we're busy year round, and it's not like we have dead weeks. In the summertime, every single day gets booked up. Weekdays,
Oh,
evenings, weekends, like it's busy. All the weekends are gone for 2026, and they're booking into 2027 right now. I mean, it's
so most of what you take in is meant to take care of the house. Is that what I'm hearing?
yeah. So that's kind of been my whole motto, is put back into the location. We've been able to put a driveway in. We've been able to put a new barn up. We have aspirations of things that we want to get done with the location still that aren't done. But it'll all come with time. We've been able to put all new windows in, new siding, new roof, excavate the honeybees with honeybee farmers, and grade the right side of the pond. We have an excavation project that we found doing GPR. There's another foundation that we found on the property that we're starting to dig up, that we have no idea what it's from, nothing on any maps. We were able to put steps in the back of the house where there's like a giving tree. I don't know if you remember that, but
I
there's
do.
steps that go up there now, and the final dagger for that was I was up there doing a tour, and I slipped down the hill, and I was like holding my spirit box like this, sliding down the hill. And I'm like, I gotta make this better, because if it's happening to me, it could happen to somebody else. I don't want people to get hurt. I want it to be a safe experience, a fun experience, and just keep putting back in to the location to make people's experiences there better. Because now it's getting to the point where teams are coming for like 2 or 3 days, or they're booking a weekend or two, and now we have kayaks so they can go in the pond. We have like games for
Oh,
them to
wow.
play outside during the day. We put a deck on the pond too, so people can go fishing. We stock the pond with bass and sunfish and trout and all these different things now. So there's stuff for people to do that want to come there for numerous days, but maybe don't want to investigate 24/7 too. I mean, take a little break and have some dinner, picnic table. We want to put up a gazebo too, like a shelter in the back, and couple cabins. I'm thinking of putting up like a base camp there as well. All these things that go on in your head as an investigator, what could make this better for us, we're thinking about doing there, just to make it like a unique place for
But
everybody to come to.
but is it for investigating? Is that
100%.
to research and find out some answers? Would that be
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that's the whole process behind it. I don't rent to It's not like an Airbnb. These are all paranormal investigators coming in from all over the world, 6 different countries last year, and
wow?
investigating the location, based on the history, that we're able to present them at the time. We've also put up like these new barcodes in the house now too. So like in different rooms of the house, we have 11 of them up in the house, and what we can do is, when people are there, they can scan these barcodes to get the history, up-to-date history of maybe some pieces of evidence that teams have captured in that location.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because one of the things that I want to get to, and we're running out of time, like I always seem to do, but have you a protocol for people that collect evidence, teams that come in and collect evidence? You mentioned that they share it, but do you have a protocol for evidence to be turned in and examined and compared to what other folks have gotten? and comparing it with like weather or solar phenomenon to see if there's anything similar going on. Like you're getting EVPs every night when the moon is full. Do you have anything like that you're doing right now? Do you have?
So the evidence that's sent to us, we keep in our Dropbox. It's kind of like a data collection area, and then we like if additional questions need to be asked. Sometimes teams don't do what you're saying. They don't take into consideration. I think a lot of the times you make people think after the fact by asking questions because they're there just they got an EVP or they're not thinking about what's the weather outside or what's the pressure or is there anything happening that's out of the ordinary. But
Do
we
you
do
encourage?
collect it. We do
Do you
encourage that.
encourage them? Okay.
Yes, and we do try to collect as much data as possible in all the years that we've been doing that, and that's kind of what the new book is going to be about. The data collected and being able to
Okay.
like
All
map
right.
out like this maybe happens here, or this happened. This team got the like all different things, and
Can,
it's just interesting.
can teams access that now in our last few seconds, unfortunately?
No, I do have some of it up on my website, but I don't have like I want to do that. I want to be able to like have like a website of just evidence only. It's coming though. Right now we do have
Well,
live cameras there.
and I want to talk more about that. I hope we can do it again because, my friend, we are out of time. Lots more questions, but I'd like to invite you to come back and join me again to go into
Absolutely.
this in more
This is
detail.
good.
So I appreciate it. And with that, folks, thank you so much for being here tonight. It was an interesting show. I hope you take care of yourselves, hug your young ones, love your families, and we'll see you on the other side. Have a good night, folks.